All right, welcome to Black Angus Reviews, episode 19 of Utter Chaos. Special guest, we got, am I saying this right? Cal?
Chael.
Roberts? Chael, okay, making sure. Usually the CH. We got Chael Roberts here of Comic Stew Nord. I hope I'm saying that right as well.
Yeah,
Your
it's
channel.
close enough.
And yeah, you're a comic skater. You got an awesome looking project. Guardians of Erloth or Erloth?
Erloth.
Awesome. You're some of the pronunciation I'm getting right, and I'm happy for that. Yeah, I was happening to scroll through my Indiegogo and looking at the campaigns I was following, and I happened to say, "Oh shit, that art! What is this?" You know, because I saw it, but I never like really looked through it. Then I was looking through, I'm like, "Oh my god, get a $5 digital, like awesome!" Because I'm super broke right now. I'm trying to catch up on bills, my new job. So, um, yeah, and I just saw this art, and it's like, you got names and stuff. Some people doing great art, like Caesar, of course, EVS, but um, your your artist, his artwork really blew me away, and it's like a high standard for um, that I'm not seeing from bigger people. So I'm really excited to see everything in it. Hopefully I can back more later. But yeah, so tell us about yourself first, and then we'll get into your comic.
Well, my name's Chael Roberts. I hail from Minnesota. Big avid Vikings fan and Wild fan. So I'm a big hockey fan. This is my first book, first publishing. So I wanted to get into publishing for a while, self-publishing, and I'd never pulled the trigger. I'd written a bunch of stuff, and I thought that, being a comics fan growing up, what better way to kind of get my stories and world out there than to do it visually. So, I just happened to land in Comicsgate at the right time.
Awesome. How long have you been following Comic Skate? And what are your main channels you follow?
Comicsgate, I've been following EVS since March of last year, so a little over a year. As far as Comicsgate, I didn't really know what Gamergate or Comicsgate was until probably about May. And that's when I backed, I think when he had launched, the end of May, he had launched Cyberfrog. So I went back and caught Jawbreakers and started following Zach. And so as far as channels I'm following, it's, all the original suspects, uh, Mr. Boyette, EVS, of course, John Malin. Once I follow Mike, I don't catch a lot of his streams because I work during the day. So, um, yeah, and then a lot of other, I guess you could say, smaller channels that are up and coming, such as yours, Black Angus Reviews and Arch City Comics, and a bunch more. I can't remember all of them, but
Yeah, it's crazy if you're in Fandom Minutes or Comicsgate, like finding these channels networking. Like I want to say I'm at like 750 for subs. There's a few here and there that are probably no names that I just sub because they're like mods or something in chess, but almost
yeah,
everybody's creators. So it's just usually besides like the High Council, Doom God, like the bigs. If I don't catch you just like scrolling through my sub list, then like yeah, I just got so many people pushing stuff, which is a good problem to have. As before, when I first started watching bullshitters, that's how I got eventually into Comicsgate. Watching the bullshitters, that's how I found Ethan. I didn't know comics. I've read a few here and there, but I'm like, whatever. And I keep hearing like, oh, it's Ethan Minsky. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And I watch his channel. His reviews of articles are so freaking boring. It's just some
right,
guy griping. I'm like, the hell. And I've backtracked and started watching the earliest stuff available on the channel, and it's so funny to see how timid he is with like Comics Explained and Mark Waid and stuff, and he's just like timid. And I was watching his Pepe video today from like over a year ago. I'm just like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
it's amazing. But yeah, it's funny how I've come with all these people and interacted and stuff. And off to hook you up if you don't know or if he hasn't been aware of you, Red Gaze. He's awesome. I would say he's more heavy in Comicsgate than Phantom Menace, but he's pretty even killed. But yeah, I'm trying to kind of follow what Caesar's done with his channel, especially since I'm getting into comics more and got a better job. So soon I'll be able to back more. But yeah, I'm really glad you have this digital available, so I could back it before. Cause I was really worried. I'm like, oh god, I got 40 hours. I only got like $10, but I want to back this,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
don't know if
thank
it'll be
you.
in demand. And oh yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah. It'll be in demand for a while yet. So if you ever get a chance and you want a physical copy, that will be there, that option.
Nice. So tell us about this book, like the gist of it, and just kind of what inspired it, and just kind of let it flow.
Yeah, so Guardians of Erloth is 24 pages, volume one, that is. And it's about a king defending his kingdom from an invading force of Lysar, otherwise known as lizard men. So it's about, the story opens up with my main character, whose name is Caius, and it's a present day. He is out and about. He is a guardian, and he's attacked by lizard men while he's out with his two wards, which are the prince and princess of the king he serves. And he rescues them, or defends them, and brings them back to relative safety. And as he's putting them to bed, he goes. There's questions because they're about 5 and 7 years of age. So he goes into a tale, which is the main tale of this book focuses on, and it's laying the foundation for his story, which will begin mostly in volume two. But it tells of the kingdom of Pardis and the king, who's his father, and pretty much the confrontation with the Lysar.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. It sounds like one heck of a time. How many volumes issues do you plan for this story?
Just four.
Okay. And are you because I started looking because I got like a project in the back of my head. I'm slowly teasing it out. I'm not a fast writer. And I don't, it's the same with my YouTube. Like, there's a couple projects where people were like, "Hey, when are you gonna do that?" Or they wanted to see that, but they forgot, perhaps. Um, but I don't force anything. I just want it to come naturally and well. So, uh, sorry.
No, that's all right.
I was laying that foundation. This happens once in a while. I get sidetracked.
Yeah.
But no, I see this, and I'm surprised 4 issues, but I really think it's going to knock it out of the park. Just seeing the art alone.
Well,
You're telling.
when I say issues, they're volumes, and I would like to go back and make this longer in the future, like remaster it. The next three are going to be a minimum of 48 pages.
Oh, okay, okay. So this is kind of like a good intro teaser, and then it's going to be like bam, bam, bam for the next week. Like
Right.
double issues. That's really cool. Um, no, I'm glad you said that. That's even more to anticipate. Oh, I know. What I was going to say. I've been looking in. Yeah, I watched Mandy Summers' interview with John Malin, and he talked about Print Ninja. So I've become more aware of pricing. Getting a figure in my head of like, all right, like if I can get this many cells or whatever, like what should I be expecting to like spin and stuff. Just getting myself ready. So I've become aware of Print Ninja and looking around other online sources, and I'm wondering. 'Cause I looked in my local area as well for any printers to compare. Are you doing like online, like Printage or something like that, or do you have a deal with like local printers? You don't have to dox where you are or anything, but
Yeah. No, I don't mind telling you where I'm at. I'm actually printing with Printivity. I looked at Print Ninja. The thing with Print Ninja, yes, they got a good product. It takes a little bit longer with shipping. Uh, I think it's good for people like John Malin because he's a known entity. People know him. They know what they're going to get. He's a professional. You know, I'm looking for the easiest path, and I don't mind paying a little bit extra. Um, that's going to get my book here quicker. And if I have any issues with it, I can contact them. So what I did was I looked at several printers, contacted them, and the first one I got a hold of that day on the phone, and I only picked ones that I would have actually printed with, is the one I went with, because I knew it was going to be a little bit easier getting a hold of them if there was any issues. So it was Printivity out of San Diego is who I ended up going with.
Nice, yeah. You know, I'm glad. I'm glad I picked up on that from that stream, and I'm glad we're talking about it now. It's like one thing I think we're kind of missing is, you know, Caesar's pretty good about talking about like perhaps the hard truths of like super success that, you know, everyone's hoping for, but rarely going to be achieved. Um, you know, he gives these pointers like, well, this is, you know, he can't account for like his clout, but there's been other people like Richard and Miller and stuff that have had big campaigns without social media club like Caesar. Um, but I think that's something missing in comic skate, at least from what I've watched, is actually just discussing for noobs like, hey, if you want to get into this, what should you be looking for? What should you be thinking? How should you be researching? So this is all interesting stuff. Even if it's perhaps technical, you're like, I don't care. I just want to hear like the inspirations and all that.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So it was for my first campaign. You know, it was my first, like I said, my first book. So I had to do something that was manageable for me, and that's why I went with 24 pages. Now, 24 pages is a harder sell, I think, on, you know, like Indiegogo. Um, People like, it's hard to build a value at the same time and, you know, meet your bottom line with a 24-page book, right? Because you can only charge so much. People are only going to go pay so much for an unknown artist, an unknown writer and creator. So, like I said, I want to go back and expand this first volume, and I will do so after the story's done. But yeah, so, you know, the next ones will be, now that I've done it, I got my feet wet, I kind of know what to expect. We're working on volume 2 right now, and it's going to be twice as long.
So is Volume 2 going to be the same artist, Mr. Ryan Best?
Yes.
Nice. Do you plan on him just being the consistent artist throughout this series?
Oh yeah, as long as he'll keep drawing it, that's my guy.
Okay, cool. So we were talking about this before, how like before we started right a few minutes ago. Um, your artists that you've only actually talked on the phone once, and that you just communicate through email, which is crazy to me. Just be outside looking in, and it's like, oh wow, like art. You know, it's like sure it's him, it's his creation, and on that side of things, but it's like your vision, you're directing. So it's just crazy to me. There's so many intricacies that I would miss through type, I think. So it's like wow, you know, and seeing the pages available on this
Right.
campaign, I'm like, wow, like there's either just great communication, this guy's just a natural, and hopefully be going places in Comicsgate, as well as yourself. I'm hoping just from
Yeah.
seeing this.
Yeah, I'm not positive that Ryan Best even knows what Comicsgate is. I found him, like I said, I found him last May, barely when I had even really learned all about Comicsgate and what it extended to, and, you know, what it pertained to. And mainly because I learned all that through EVS, because, you know, like you said earlier, you found this guy talking about articles and, you know, pointing with his iPad with his mechanical pencil. I had the same reaction. I was like, "Who's this nerd?" But
Well, I'm wondering, like, who the hell is this loser with Jeff Hicks? And then it's like, oh, he's like a super renowned comic artist,
right,
and yeah, he's got all these connections and met people and stuff. But it's like before, he was just some dweeb on YouTube with like no spin, no umph, and now it's like, oh wow, it's like he's the standard for like topical entertainment.
right.
Uh, so your artist, I'm just wondering, like, uh, you, without giving any like intimate details, if whatever you want to withhold, that's fine. But you know, I want to add something when I do these streams with comic skaters, to get that info like we're talking about. how do you go about, like, okay, you're just scrolling through, you see this guy on DeviantArt or maybe a Google search, and you find him. How do you go about negotiating or interacting? Like, hey, I got this idea. Would you want to be my artist? And just kind of take us through that for yourself, your story with that.
Okay. So when I started, I had the story idea because I had been writing a novel for a while, and I had these characters. So I had the characters, the outline of the book. I knew it was going to be fantasy. So with that information, I read fantasy comics, so I kind of knew what I wanted. And I did a Google search, and I came across a website called comicartcommissions.com. And I actually found my cover artist, Keith Hinman, and my interior artist, Ryan Best, on there, as well as several others. So I reached out and contacted several, and I think two ended up getting back to me. And Ryan Best had the best portfolio and had a link to other art. And I went on there and looked at his website. And then that led me to Comixology, where he had done work for Zenescope. And from there, I was able to look at his actual work. And I liked it. And I thought it would fit my story. And he had several works on there, and each one was better than the next. You know what I mean? You could tell that he was progressing. So I reached out to him. He was definitely interested. Got his page rates and all the financials down. Worked out for me. Had him. I commissioned to do, I think it was 4 pieces of character design. And when I got those back, I knew right away that, yeah, this is my guy. So what I did, because I wasn't sure, I actually sent him a layout of the first 5 pages. So I drew the first 5-page layout, like with boxes and everything.
Kind
And
of like a storyboard for the comic.
right. And I sent them to him, and I was like, hey, first 5 pages, here's a script. This is how I want it. Because I had a vision for it already. This is how I want it laid out. He was like, okay. And he did that. He made a couple minor changes that were good because of his experience. And from there, after the 5 pages were done, I just sent him the script with the descriptions and the dialogue, and he took off with that. He did the layouts, and it ended up working out really well. I mean, I try to provide as much detail without getting into things like, I told him how I wanted my main character to look, but other than that, he added a lot of stuff in there that I didn't request, but it was background stuff that basically give me more ideas. So I'd go back and change the script a little bit or tweak it, because I did 5 pages at a time. And yeah, it ended up being a really, really good working relationship. And I think we do well together. We're a good match.
Nice, yeah. So I'm scrolling through. I don't know if you're seeing it, how you're doing your hangout with me, but for everyone in the chat, I'm scrolling through. I'll go up and down a couple times so everyone can see the art and stuff. I have the link for his channel, Comics Du Nord. I'm hoping I'm saying that right or close, like you said. Have that in there. Let's get them to 50 subs. I know you're at 41 last I checked. Let's get you to 50 and hopefully more. And also have a link for the Indiegogo so you can scroll through it yourself, see perks you want to do. If you have an actual Indiegogo account, one thing I suggest, so you don't forget, is hit that little follow button. So if you can't back it at the moment, like I was telling him earlier, I don't know if I said it here in the chat, but I was following this for a while, but I got sidetracked, so I came back scrolling through, seeing like what's still available for me to purchase, what looks good, what takes precedent, kind of stacking different in my head, like making a list of, all right, I got this much time to back X, Y, and Z. How can I like schedule this for my paychecks? And I just haven't scrolled through and see you have the thief option, $5. I'm assuming PDF format.
Yes. Yep.
PDF format to have the digital copy. Just $5, no shipping. That's a low risk investment for what sounds to be a really fun project. Are you gonna up? I assume you'll probably up a bit. What, to 8 or 10 once it gets to 48 pages for 2 through 4? Am I
Yeah,
correct?
I'm actually not positive what I'm going to do with the digital in the second volume. I haven't fully decided on that yet.
No, I totally agree. I get the concern with people just screenshot and uh, not plagiarize, but pirate your
Yeah.
work perhaps and stuff, and lose sales that way. But so like me in a bind, like it's great. Or like same with Super Helm, I backed them and who is it? Blood Hunt, because there was a digital option. And it's like just as getting adjusted and stuff. Like it's great to have like a cheaper investment than like
Right.
$25 physical, and you're waiting. Like this is fun. Let me address the chat really quick
Sure.
and see if there's any questions. If there's not questions currently, then please chat. Think of some, whatever. If you're interested in doing a Indiegogo campaign for comics or just a book or something, I talked to someone earlier who's working on a book, and someone more in tune with Comicsgate gave him all these different options and ideas and formats of how to like release it in stages. So this info could end up being helpful for you, even if you're not a comic skater or a comic creator at all, or looking to be one. Where did it go? Got so many tabs open. All right, let me scroll up. So I know we had Frank and Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, as well as superfan Adam Shawhan. I haven't seen you in a while. I was actually thinking of y'all recently. So it's great to see you here in the chat. We have Bianca Fights the Zombies, great supporter, saying aloha, y'all. Are you in Hawaii, Bianca? Let me know. Got Immortal Coil, great friend. He says, Schwack, that fact button, my biggest. Thanks for coming, Immortal. I can drop you a link actually if you want, because I'm sure you got a lot more comic experience. So I'm sure you got some avenues of thought to question. Sorry, Chael?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Make sure I really don't want to mispronounce people's names. We got Drunk 3P. I know he's dealing with hurricane weather, so hopefully it works out for you later on. Drunk and others down in Florida. So you got Second Street Marvel. He says, "What's up, y'all? Glad to finally make it to another stream. Hey, appreciate you coming in. I'll have to get you on a panel at some point. Plan it better with you, Second Street, because I know you're a huge comics fan." General Zod saying, "Hey, chat." Catrice YZ. Yep, I loved how bad it was. Don't know what you're referring to. Sorry. Talking about EVS when he started recording his iPad, and yeah, he was so dull. But I'm like, Jeff Hicks likes him. I guess I'll stick around, and luckily it worked out. Let me see. Picture of the Sis says, "I'm watching this while eating, so do not be funny because if I spit barbecue sauce through my nose again, dot dot dot." uh, Super Channel Awesome Time says, "I know nothing, just avoiding my accounting homework." Awesome. So Immortal Coil is asking, what inspires you as an artist and storyteller? What are your influences? Can't say I've heard of you before. Thanks for winning the light on this Black Angus reviews. Yeah, so Chael, what inspires you as a storyteller and your influences?
I think what inspires me as a storyteller would be maybe, reading. I grew up reading fantasy as well as other things, but, that 1980s, I didn't start reading it till the 1990s, but it was that 1980s Dragonlance, D&D was written by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. I think that would be one of the foundations for, creating this world. But as far as inspiring me as a writer, I would probably say a little bit of everything I watch. My favorite TV shows, maybe. Sometimes you watch something and you get an idea, or sometimes you read something and you're like, well, maybe I would have done that a little bit different. And that's kind of how I started writing. And Without doing fan fiction, that is. But some of you kind of, as a writer, you kind of touch on some of the same themes. Um, for me, it was the hero's journey. I grew up, in school reading the Odyssey. We've all grown up watching Star Wars, which is a very good telling of the hero's journey. So uh, I think that's probably one of the things that inspires me the most.
No, it's very interesting. We can get into it later if you are. Get your take. But are you a Game of Thrones fan? If so, did you finish season 8?
I was. I was very disappointed in the last 2 seasons. I think the last season was it just wasn't a good season. I think they did not stay true to the characters, and they always like that wow factor because George R. R. Martin did it. But and then I've read the books also, and I'm a fan of those. I have to say, if they end the same way as the TV show, it'll be a little unsatisfying. And that's one of those things where you go back and you think, well, I've written it differently. I want to leave the reader satisfied.
Yeah, no. Maybe you'll have an insight with this. How would I say this? So I remember, and I didn't. How would I say this? You were in the Navy. I saw in your Indiegogo, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. So you've heard of the phrase like toolbox, like put that in your toolbox?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you never know sometimes what will stick with you. Like the difference between Marvel and DC, the core, DC being like, look at these gods, of their respective powers, versus like DC is like, look at these people who just happen to get powers and they're dealing with it. And both are fantasies or, in different ways that appeal to you. I think Marvel has the edge with like their format. But of course, Batman's like quintessential creation. But you never know what's going to key in, and like that came from the special features of I think the first Spider-Man was like, oh, and I didn't know anything about comics. I never saw a comic store until I became an adult in the army, and I watched Stranger Things, and of course I blew through the first season, so I was watching anything I could of it, waiting for season 2, and it might have been season 2 with the special features on Netflix. They're talking about how like, yeah, we didn't know Barb would be such a big deal because we just thought, okay, yeah, she's gone, whatever. She's like a low tier character, but there's that whole justice for Barb push and stuff.
Right.
And so they started, it seems pretty clear that they started writing a bit differently, knowing some feedback. And that's not necessarily bad, but it's like your vision is now getting skewed by the fan base. And so now you're like narrowing your vision. And I think maybe Martin, having written this and still writing this over 30 years now, his writing's now getting choked. He talks about like, well, if people figure out the ending, like the who done it, they figure out, oh, it was the secretary or whatever. I can't change it because someone figured out something I thought would be, a real twist, or like, oh wow, it was that ending. I got to stick it through. I just got to try to make it entertaining for everyone.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, do you get that vibe, and do you fear that at all for any of your creations, like you're writing it, where it's like if you take too long, you're going to askew your initial vision?
I don't think so, just because I plan on getting these 4 works done in the next couple of years. So, and nobody knows who I am, so I don't really have to worry about that. But I think for Martin's case, he stated that he's not going to change it just because, the show is a certain way, or people may or may not know or have guessed what happens. I think to that end, you should stay true to your story. We don't know what that is really 100%. So that's the conundrum when you write a work like that and it becomes a blockbuster and then they make a TV show before it's finished. I don't know if we've ever seen that before.
Yeah, because he knows he knows what everyone hates about it. Um, and so it's like, even if it's written well, like the ending points, like because they're first digested from the film, from like not from film, but from the show that it's filmed. It's it imprints on you. Like I started reading Game of Thrones while I was watching it, and it's like you can't separate the vision in the book like anymore. Once you've seen it done well, you're like, oh, okay. So that's how you're seeing it going forward.
Right.
So I think that hinders it. And it's really cool. I was really hoping, regardless of what the ending actually turned out in the moment, I was like, I really hope he does two different timelines where it's like, if people hate the show ending, they can read the book and like that, and vice versa, or you can just enjoy like two different ideas of how the story ends. I think that would have been cool marketing, where it's like, oh yeah, you didn't like the planning of the Night King and this and that. Well, it's going to be totally different in the book, and just the possibilities and stuff. And he
Yeah.
could he could build off of that both ways. And I don't know, it just
Well, the Night King's not even in the books yet, and that's through what, 5 books?
yeah, he's I don't know if he's gonna. Well, I guess he's gonna have to, because it seems like a core element. Um, I don't know how you would avoid the Night King.
I
Uh,
think I think I have a feeling he's got something else planned. That will be the same role, but it may not be called the Night King.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know. But no,
there are there are information like stories he's dropped of the history of the Wall and of certain characters that he included in that history that had dealings with the others.
yeah, I know there's a difference between the Night King of like D&D versus the Night's King, which is what the beginning of the world, like 10,000 years before. Um, so yeah, it's crazy, confusing, intricate, and I love it. I want to invest more. Like despite how it ended the delivery, I've said this. I've been very adamant from the beginning. I was like, season 8, episode 1 and 2. It feels like Game of Thrones. People complain like it's so slow, nothing's happening. They're just talking like it's Game of Thrones. This is like changing the chess set right before something major is about to happen. You think everyone's safe in their alliances, and then oh look, you got this conundrum of Sam, Daenerys, and Jon, and you can throw of course Sansa in there as well, an enemy at her back. And it's just you didn't expect that. You thought everyone was just set in their place now, and they just go forward with like the battles. And that's what was brilliant. And then you get to see episode 3, and it's like, oh my god. And then episode 4, it's like, okay, it's okay. And then the dragon gets killed. Convenient shooting as far as just film style, and it just kept going and kept going. And it's like, it's going to be hard for people to detach the story points from the delivery. And so I think it's the biggest limitation, because I'm fine actually with the story, as disappointing as it is. I don't think that meant the actors like hate their role. I think it's the actors like, well, I even though I'm acting the show, I'm still part of you know people that are set with tropes from film and storytelling. It's like, oh, you expect the hero to have some nicety in life and etc. And it's very much Machiavellian in a way, especially with the whole like instead of them choosing it, it's a lot of like, well, this is just your fate. You have power and you have to do stuff for the realm because that's within your power. Says I was very interesting, just given what Martin talks about with truth and fiction and stuff. So very enamored with Martin.
Yeah, he's a good storyteller.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Before
think
I forget, you were just saying something about the Vikings. I don't know if you picked up on, but I'm a big Philly fan.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
feel bad. I feel bad in a way, even though like some of the fans, they definitely earned the skull in the stadium
Oh
as a
yeah.
jab. Um,
Why? Thank
I
you.
I was puckered. I was puckered up awful when we were we had that first drive. We just marched down the field, 80 yards, touchdown. I'm like, oh god, it's gonna happen again. The success is just gonna piss away, and then bam, 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 just relentless. And it was just I'll have to send you a link if you interested in it. As a football fan, I did kind of a bittersweet history of Philly before Super Bowl, and I got like a clip of my wife took of me and my son when we won, and
Oh,
yeah, I haven't balled that much besides 1 or 2 times. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what that's like because my team.
yeah, I was rooting for I was rooting for whoever won that game to beat the
Dude,
AFC.
I'm in Cleveland. I don't want to freaking hear it.
I mean, you Cleveland hasn't been to the big dance, but at least you haven't been there and lost 4 times.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
That's the better. A bridesmaid, never a bride. Yeah, I don't agree with that. At least I want to go to the show at least once.
Oh, me too. It was before I was born.
Yeah,
Well, and I'm from Seattle, so
Yeah.
no, you're
No,
doing.
you could suck it then.
Sorry, Mo. I thought you were going to mute yourself. Like, no, keep talking. But Chael, we got Comic Book Bob with us and my buddy Immortal Coil. Well, Comic Bob's a buddy too. I just haven't streamed a lot with them, so that's the distinction. But yeah, get acquainted, discuss a little bit. I'm gonna grab a drink of tea and then address the chat, and we'll keep going forward and get some more insight from you.
Yeah. What's going on, fellas?
Not much.
Well, and I was going to ask you, so like Erloth, like why should we care about that as opposed to all these other realms? Like it seems like every other week we have like a different realm coming out. What can you tell me about Erloth that would entice us?
What do you mean a different realm coming out or different?
Well, yeah. So we have like Terabithia, we have Narnia, we have So like, sell yourself, man. Tell me.
So those you mentioned two books or 2 works or 2 places in works that have been around for a while. This is Erloth is new. I'm trying to not reinvent, not remake the wheel, but add, make it, turbocharge it. You know what I mean? You're seeing Conan, but what other fantasy works that are really, you get a lot of superhero, which is, that's what comic books are, right? They've been since the beginning. So I'm really trying to push and be the forefront of fantasy, in comics. And it's not something you see a lot or that people, you get a certain niche, I guess, that does it. And it's a lot of those.
So you're not scared of like men having pectorals and women being women, right?
No, I mean, it's going to be the same, maybe not with a big 2, but what you're seeing right now in Comicsgate and in the indie community, as far as, women are going to be beautiful. And, and EVS has touched on that a lot, and men should look like gods. It's who we want to be. It's who we imagine ourselves if we could be a superhero or, a warrior or somebody with power. What would you want to look like? You want to look like Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem I have with the current condition of comics is that they're trying to turn them into us. I'm like, no, they're supposed to be paragons.
Right. So I think to answer your question, why should people pick this book up? I don't think it should be a either or. I think it should be an end. Pick this book up, and in addition to Cyberfrog, in addition to Graveyard Shift 2, because it's going to add another genre to your bookshelf. You're going to get a good story. It's a fantasy story, but you're not just going to get pages of people casting spells and fantasy creatures. You're going to get, like I said, the hero's journey. You're going to get some emotion in there. You're going to like these characters and the way they're written.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a fantasy book, so I'm down with that.
Well, then, what's your thoughts on Comicsgate in general? I mean, where do you land on that particular platform?
I think it's a necessity. Everybody's talking about the state of comics. I stopped buying Marvel and DC a long time ago, long before there was a Comicsgate.
Now, was that due to politicism, or was that because of your own? Okay.
Yep.
Continue.
I mean, I was buying Dark Horse Star Wars. I had been up until 2012, since the time the 90s, since I had my first job and I didn't have to go to the library and rent, comics. But as far as Marvel and DC, I think the crux for me, or the ending point, I should say, was, and I don't remember the book, but it was a Batman Catwoman, and it was around 2007 ish. I think 2008, and it was an anti-gun theme. And
wait, was that the one that Ethan Van Sciver did from like? I think he pushed in like Europe.
I'm not sure.
Well, because he purposefully drew like 100 guns in that issue, right? Sorry about the background.
Yeah, I remember it first finding out about it through an article. I don't remember which website or where I found the article, but I went and checked it out, and it was, I'm ex-military, very Second Amendment supportive, and I own firearms, and I just remember being kind of like, this is dumb. Why should I buy any more books from Marvel or DC? They're obviously pushing certain, and this was long before. Well, I guess there's always been SJW, so to a certain extent, but this was before Comicsgate, before we had issues like we are seeing now, not only in comics but in the culture and pop culture. So yeah, I think that was the one thing that sticks out in my mind.
That book it's from 2004. It's the Trail of the Gun.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it was longer ago than I thought. So
no, it's just crazy hearing that. I stopped buying like 15 years ago. They were getting woke 15 years ago. Like I would never imagine like hearing that, because like when I go, because I got Ollie's where I live, like Jeff Hicks does with Bullshitters, and he finds these comic book hauls and stuff. So I'm always hunting, seeing something like I found Enemy of the State Wolverine from there, and so if you find little gems, but there's so much just. You'll find like 30 to 50 copies of like new Marvel. So it's like I've kind of figured out the look of new Marvel, say about 5 years back, and going forward to today. Like there's a look to it. So in my head I'm kind of like, all right, 2014 is kind of the cutoff for most comics, unless you can hear something good from someone you trust, like Comic Bob or War Campaign or Caesar or someone. You hear like a thumbs up about a new story. So it's weird. It's just crazy hearing this, because it's like, all right, because I was watching Doug Ernst's interview, and he's talking about like, about 2010 or so, Spider-Man started noticing stuff. So it's funny like hearing someone more attuned to it back then. It's just, I don't know, it's interesting to me.
I think it might have been because at the time, 2004, I was in the military. I was in California. That may have been, I think that was an election year.
Okay, so Kerry Bush probably was going on.
Yeah. And I think everything was politically charged, not to the extent it is now, but a little bit then.
It was probably maximum at that stage, I would say. Being a kid growing up, kind of putting my head back then a little bit. When I was like 12, it's like, I remember Bush Kerry was like a thing, they're like, especially with Kerry being a vet. He was kind of a weird predicament. He was a vet, but he's Democrat and has to be anti-gun. Yeah. And it was just weird. So, I can see looking back how that would, especially if you're in the military, you're a little bit more hyper vigilant. It's the same thing with, Fandom Menace. It's like I'm very hyper vigilant with film, with like looking for woke shit, and kind of seeing like what's my limit, like lead poison. How much will I ingest? What's safe amount to take in, if at all. So it's interesting. I appreciate a different take from the standard. It's kind of what I'm like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't that long after 9/11 either, so that emotion was still running pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, then I also have to say that we're less than $500 away from the stretch goal. And this is some awesome art, man. So can you tell us about the artistic style and what your visual representation of your ideas will be?
Yeah, so the artist is Ryan Best. I guess his style is very, I don't know, I want to say mainstream, but it's good. I think it's professionally done. And the first time I showed those first 5 pages of inks to Edwin Boyette and John Malin, and Malin's comment was that it looked very professional. The layout was professional. The art was drawn professional. It wasn't extensively shaded and like Kanan White does. and he's phenomenal at that.
He's a great artist. Yeah.
Yep. I think with fantasy, a lot of the effects and a lot of the emotion was put in with not only the art but the shading and coloring. So Keith Hinman did the cover. You'll see the gold cover with half the face, and Ryan Best drew it. So it looks. I could show you the inks, and it looks.
Yeah, if you have some screen share. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, the colors just. I mean, Ryan Best did a fantastic job with the coloring. So he does the pencils, the inks, and the coloring.
Yeah, I think with a couple of projects coming out, like Cyberfrog and Graveyard Shift and all that, I think we're finding out that coloring has an amazing effect on the books. Doesn't really get the coverage that it usually gets. It's due.
Right. Let's see if I can find that. But yeah, his style is very clean. I think the lines are very clean, and he's good at, like I said, he's good at storytelling with his art, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to minimize the dialogue, and like I said, I went back and changed things when I saw his art because it inspired different things, I guess, in my imagination and for the story. And maybe he doesn't realize it because the script I sent him isn't identical to what the final product ended up being. So I curbed my writing to his art too.
Yeah,
that's nice to hear, honestly. Usually, especially you hear it from Ethan Sky, where he talks about, artists get shafted in this system. So I just want to kind of write that when he's talking about like Kyle and whatnot. So I appreciate that you're like, yeah, I got a story, but like his art has such an effect. It's not just, hey, get me what's in my head. It's like, wow, you did something. You've added something. I need to adjust a bit. I like hearing that.
So yeah, I can screen share really quick if you guys want to see the. I'll show you the pencils.
I would love to. Yeah,
can't find the inks at the moment, but
yeah, that process you're talking about, that's actually that's the way Lee and Kirby used to work. Like Lee would just give him kind of a rough outline, let Kirby do his thing with the art, and then he would add the dialogue in later.
Yeah, well, like Chris Claremont and John Byrne.
Oh yeah,
they just they got in that sync. So to try to find an artist, I mean, how did you come up with your artist, man? How did you meet him?
I found him online at Comic
Art Commissions. Is that
yes.
correct?
Yeah, comicartcommissions.com. Because I had no idea what I was doing. I went back and watched all of EVS's old like art streams, learned as much as I could, watched other people's videos, Google, and started learning about the whole process, even from the artists, what the artists would do. And when I found him, I had emailed him and he responded, and we started out with character designs. And, like I was saying earlier, as soon as I got back those designs, I was like, yeah, he's my guy.
And did you have your whole story like built up in your head this whole time? Or was it just like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was outlined. I hadn't written the script totally. And I like to reserve the ability to change stuff. So I didn't send him the whole script, because it was, like I said, it was my first time. And as soon as he came back with the character designs and then the first 5 pages in pencil, it started, the creative juices started flowing. And here, I'll show you a couple of layouts and pencils. Can't find the inks at the moment, but where do I go here? Share.
Yeah, I really like that dragon cover.
The King White one.
Yeah, it's going back to that whole thing where you're talking about in limiting the rendering on it. That's not a bad thing, because there are some books and some artists where you can over render something to the point where it just becomes unrecognizable.
Yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
So this was done by Keith Hinman. This isn't Ryan Best. This is like a basic like doodle, a little layout that he threw at me based on what I wanted. He came up with like 5 designs, and I was like, that right there, because I had, when I had started writing the book, the novel, I had always thought about covers, and I had thought once about doing a split face like this on the cover of a book, you know, just kind of thinking what would look flashy on the bookshelf or what would attract attention, right? So when he came back with this, I was like, yeah, that's it right there. And then here's the pencils.
Oh, wow.
And the inks were, you know, just inks. They're cleaned up. And what Ryan did was, when he went in colored, was obviously he added the sunset. He added the leopard's spots and colored the whole thing. And he did a fantastic job.
Well, it looks like you're at
Jesus,
1483,
amazing.
and if we can get to 1500, then we can unlock this next stretch goal.
Definitely. Am I still?
Oh yeah, let me unpresent you really quick so you don't feel awkward watching yourself exclusively. Yeah, let me address the chat really quick. Where did I go? I saw earlier up in here. Where'd it go? We have a new channel following, Biden Touch. I like to touch themes. That's awesome. Let's see. Brother Malachi says, Batman's the epitome of pushing yourself to limits. That's kind of how Bane won Nightfall. He exploited that flaw to the maximum effect. Yeah, I've read, I think, about a fourth of Nightfall because I love, you know, I'm one of the rare people I really love Dark Knight Rises because I love Bane in that. And I was like, I need to find like the quintessential Bane story. So I found out about Nightfall. Echo Base Network, I don't know if you realize I addressed you, but yeah, I'm not monetized yet. Still waiting. I've heard it could take up to like 8 months for some channels. So hopefully, maybe if it takes longer, I'll be more favorable to YouTube, given this whole Vox apocalypse stuff right now. Hopefully that'll fade away. Although people in Congress are outright saying like, "Oh, I want Crowder nuked on YouTube," pretty much. Kermit the Log has joined us. He's a great friend of the channel. Oscar-nominated a-hole. Hey, man. I'm not sure if this is the first time I've seen you in chat, but awesome. We got to get you on a stream soon. He says, I've been trying to get back into older Batman comics, going through the Nightfall Night Quest series. It's really good. Yeah. I saw this last 10-issue part of Tom King's run before he switches to Batcat. He's doing like City of Bane or something. I don't know anything about Tom King Batman besides what I see from your boy Zach, but I don't know. The art looks cool. Like, I'm interested, and this Batcat looks good, but yeah, I keep hearing bad stuff from Tom King. And Wookie Lives Matter says, "Hey Angus." Oh yeah, Super Channel Awesome Time. Yeah, that is you know, I'm trying to get back into doodling and stuff. So I took heed. I watched repeatedly Ethan's video about like, here's what you need to start drawing, and he just goes like Hobby Lobby or something, and like get this, $100, start drawing. Yeah, that was awesome. I've been following here and there drawing channels and whatnot, trying to get back into like sketching. So maybe I'll make a playlist for you all to follow, and I'll definitely add that so people can be aware. And Wookie Loves Matter says, rereading Star Wars Legacy books. Nice. All right, let's continue. Where were we? I know Mora was talking about pushing for that stretch goal 1500.
That'd be nice. It looks like we could unlock another character. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm working on volume 2 right now with Ryan. I actually got the inks back today, and he's coloring them right now. So those will be ready to roll for the next campaign. But one of the things about my book is that it is fantasy, but it is not all, you know, magic spells and stuff you would typically find in a fantasy comic or book, right? Or, you know, a game, a D&D game, because I guess this is what that is closest to. But So I want to introduce a little bit more fantasy creatures and characters in the next one. And one of those characters is who I'll be showing. I'll be sending to people a PDF document with a biography or a bio and a description of the character.
Well, shit, guys, go ahead and submit and post your pledge. You know, we want to see these things unlocked. This guy's been working hard. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
The art for the second one is, I mean, this, you haven't seen all the pages in this one, but the pages I'm getting back from him for the second one are very, very detailed, very good art.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if Mortal Kombat could say something. I was going to ask you. So, it sounds like after you complete this series, you got other projects in your head, in the works and whatnot. So, do you think you're going to be just kind of like a fantasy exclusive creator, or do you have any like superhero type of more classic comics in the works, or somewhere in between, or maybe just indie stuff, like something outside the box? What is the range of Chael? Sorry, Chael Roberts.
Yep, that's correct. I guess, yeah, I do have tons of stories that are fantasy in nature. Some of them are historical fantasy. Some of them are Western fantasy. Civil War era fantasy. So I've actually reached out to a couple artists, good artists, other artists, and kind of got just kind of talked to them, gotten a feel, looked at their art. So definitely more in the comics. As far as superhero, I'm not sure or positive that I could bring a fresh character in that genre at the moment. What's really driving me right now is this story and fantasy, both historical and straight fantasy. So,
well, what is it about these sort of like mytho-historical characters that drives us, that like stimulates this genetic component of ourselves where we just yearn for this forgotten realm, this high adventure fantasy? And how do you translate that to your platform?
Well, I touched on it a little bit earlier, and I'll go into more detail. I had talked about the hero's journey. When I was younger, I read the Odyssey, the Iliad. Watched the movies. It was easier to watch the movies and then go back and read them because they're entertaining, but it's like reading the Bible.
Well, yeah. So and that's actually the writing, like bringing it into a realm where people nowadays can relate to it.
Yeah, I mean, that was really George Lucas really encompassed that hero's journey, the mythological or the legendary figure. He had a divine destiny, and along the way, he faces these monsters, and he's helped by the old man, the person that's guiding him and teaching him. And then he becomes this person who's admired because he's achieved all these accolades, and he's got the noble qualities. So, and I think you need that for superheroes. You need that for fantasy heroes. I think, you watch a movie like John Wick. He's got all these, he's he kicks ass, right? But there's something driving him. It starts out with revenge. I'm no spoiler alerts, so I won't go into it. But if you've seen John Wick, I've only seen the first one, but you've got this hero who's got a history. He started on his path. You get the old man that comes in to help him out, and I think that's key or essential to a lot of stories, not just mine.
So do you have like a coming of age kind of approach to this?
Yes. So the first one, the first book will lay the foundation. It opens up present day in the main character's name is Caius. We'll open with him as he's where he is now. He's achieved these accolades. You don't know how he got there, but you know that he's this great warrior, right? He's a guardian, and his job is to protect this king and his heirs from dark magical influence, I guess. And he's got magical abilities himself that helps him or aids him in that mission. Other than being a physically strong warrior. So the book opens up. He's already there. He's on a mission. You don't really know what the mission is right away because it's not imperative to this story. But he defends. They're attacked by these lizard men. He fights them off, brings them back to safety, and then he goes as kind of an entry into the greater all story that I want to tell, the hero's journey. He tells a bedtime story to these children, and it's his story. And you find out that he was an heir to his own kingdom, so he's a royal lineage. And then the last part of the book tells of his father protecting this kingdom called Pardus from these lizard men. So it's going to explore the ongoing war with the Lysar and humans, and why they distrust each other, why they hate each other. It will bring in the main antagonist, Varanus, the Destroyer, who will be the big bad throughout the 4 volumes. And then book 2 will pick up, relatively soon after the first one ends with his story, where Caius is at as a child, and kind of take you through his journey.
Nice. It's funny. I was going to say this earlier about the art. When I was scrolling through, I'm like, oh, Cannon White, because he's made himself with especially Bran. And so I was looking through it. It's like, I just assumed he was the artist for all this stuff, aside from the cover. And so, yeah, like, finding this guy best, like, he found a real winner. I really mean that.
He's the best.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So what are I was going to ask you, what are some maybe not for like this project or any of your projects, but like just getting to know you a little bit, what are some of like the quintessential movies that reflect you or your interest, or like, this is my taste?
Well, we all go to the Star Wars, so I'll just put that out there and then move on. The 80s, I guess it was Willow. Even the Ewoks movie, you watch it now, it's kind of like, yeah, but when you're 7 years old, 6 years old, it's fantastic. I would say Legend.
Oh my God! Thank God someone knows Legend. I get so irritated. People are like, "Oh, the Labyrinth." I'm like, you only like it because Bowie. Like, Legend is where it's at.
Yep.
Director's Cut's the best one.
What is that?
Director's Cut of Legend is the best.
Oh yeah, I don't know that I've seen that, but I love Labyrinth, but I love Tom Cruise. I'm a Tom Cruise fan.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh yes, I'm loving you even more now. Yeah. I don't get when it became. I get like there's a whole Oprah thing when he was with Katie Holmes. Fine.
Yep. How can you not like a guy who jumps on a couch and shouts his love out for Katie? What's her name? Katie.
I don't know her last name now.
Dawson's Creek.
Yeah.
Katie.
But yeah, like people people latched on, and then you had Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights, like, add that with the whole like, help me Tom Cruise with your powers, and but like it's just like the prequels or something. Like, there's just certain things where it's like, yeah, the internet just loves to hate this thing, and it's like, what? Like, why? Like, this guy's a great actor. He's done I don't know how many like military movies alone that are all really good portrayals, at least of his role. If
Tropic Thunder was one of his best roles.
Dude, that part with him in that movie was so freaking hilarious. That made that movie for me.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy seeing his tenure right now. I haven't watched everything of his. I'm not into Mission Impossible. I think I'll just stick with Bond before this new Bond. If you want to talk about that, we can.
Well,
But yeah,
I'm a
like
big fan of like his appearance on South Park. That was pretty good.
Was that the Scientology?
It was like he's not even that closet, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was,
He's not
there was also the other one where he was working at a fudge packing factory.
Family Guy did the tiny Tom Cruise. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think one of his most clever roles, you can tout Tropic Thunder. That's all cool. I don't think he would have that without beforehand being playing Austin Powers in Austin Pussy, the intro for.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Kevin
that was.
Spacey is Dr. Evil.
Hey, look at me! I'm Enemy. Dane DeVito.
Yeah.
But how can you not like Days of Thunder or Top Gun? I grew up on those two. My dad was a addict when it came to watching those two, Top Gun at least over and over and over again. So
Yeah, it's not good. I'm trying to think.
My first boob, even though it was in the shadows, you know.
Born on the 4th of July. I saw that, I think, right before I went to basic. It was like, a new film for me. And, when I try to explain I'm a little different now, especially with like Trump and stuff. Like, I'm more conservative than I was like in my flux after the military. But I try to explain to people like, yeah, I'm former military, so like this is why I think this about the system, and it was kind of reflective of Born on the 4th of July. So I really appreciate that story, regardless of whatever spin there is to it, whatever embellishing. There's a great portrayal as well by Tom Cruise. I think it's a very underrated performance, and a great military film, and the right way to show something political that's charged and divisive.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because you got like a very outright hippie veteran that's like disabled and paralyzed and shit.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt that it was actually based off a real person. So
Yeah. In any other films you want to address or point out? I know you got stuck on Tom Cruise, but
Yeah,
I get excited because people were like, Tom Cruise.
I
Tap
think,
game.
yeah, I mean, as far as fantasy, that would because when I started writing this, I comics are very similar to movies, I guess, shorter movies, right? So you write a script and you see these layouts, they're storyboards essentially, and you want the action to kind of flow, you want the dialogue to flow.
Well, and as a director of photography, we definitely want to see those things framed. So you can write words on a page, but like how do we perceive them, and how do you as a writer communicate that?
Right. And I think Lord of the Rings, when it came out, was so blockbuster in my mind that it was hard not to be inspired by a movie like that, because I had read The Hobbit growing up, but I'd never read Lord of the Rings. They're not to a 9-10-year-old, they're not a good read.
Oh God.
Even as an adult, they're a little tough.
yeah. No love for Excalibur or Dragon Slayer.
Oh yeah, Excalibur was a huge one. I didn't see Excalibur till my freshman year of high school, so mid-90s. But yeah, that was a phenomenal movie. There's also, Sword in the Stone was another, it was a cartoon, but it was fun. And probably my earliest introduction in the 80s to King Arthur. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, it's hard to have to go back and think, but yeah,
my buddy I just texted him and said we're talking about fantasy movies. He's like, bring up Call. I'm like, no.
Wait, is it Cole or Kroll?
Crawl.
Okay, yeah, I need to see that one. I've never seen it.
Oh my God. It's, you know what? It's one of those movies. You got to watch it through the lens of time, because it's got some cheesy stuff in it, but one of the cool things about it is it's got Liam Neeson in it.
Oh, I'm sold. Already sold.
A very young Liam Neeson.
Well, but he broke my heart when he came out against like anti 2A fans, because we were talking about that a couple of minutes ago.
That's Hollywood, man.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so how can you get off being an actor and then say like, yeah, guns are bad and I'm never gonna, like, nobody should, and then like go out and make $1 zillion shooting bad guys on the field.
Well, that's just like what's her name? Evan Rachel Wood from Deadwood.
Oh my god.
And from Westworld, talking shit about Harper from Stranger Things. I'm like, you play a bloodthirsty, murderous robot. You're gonna talk about him being a bad guy? I'm like, Jesus Christ, lady.
Yeah, I've watched 30 minutes so far of the new season, just the first episode, and I'm like, this is a jumbled fucking mess. Like, I'm not the best. Like, I still can't quite pick out like first, second, third act in films like everyone talks about. Like, I think it's because they blend them pretty well compared to before. It's like clearly we're shifting in the pacing or whatever. And so I'm watching like, this is jumbled. I get it. You're trying to reintroduce everybody to all these people. It's fairly well, but like to me, I'm like, all right, slow the hell down. But then I'm aware of this whole controversy, not seeing the show yet, and I'm like, when they show Hopper with Winona Ryder, I'm like, yeah, his fury and stuff like this he's an adoptive father, not wanting his daughter to be a slut. It's just a natural instinct. Yeah. It's the preservation of it. It's all based on the disparity of the exchange, if you will. Yeah. Of anyone can be a dad. How many are fathers? And it's like women are stuck with it. That's why motherhood's valued. So therefore, we want to protect our girls from any seed being planted.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. He's a single dad who's raising a teenage daughter with superpowers. I mean, the dude's frustrated as hell. Come on. I mean, it's such a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah. And, especially like he's like the sheriff, he's probably slept around a bit, being single and whatnot, having his way or having that cloud like, oh, man in uniform, like he's the top dog of the city or the community, whatever. They don't show a lot, if at all, but like clearly he's in a position to exploit conquest more so than some of his peers. And now he's a father, so that's coming full circle of awareness of like, I know what these boys think. It's just the classic father concern. And so I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my God, it's the same argument with someone was crapping on this dad for like tweeting something or Facebooking a picture of himself with like a shotgun for like prom with his daughter or something. Yeah. And it's like it's just how it is. That's how dads are. Where it's like you put up a good front for a reason.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes from Bad Boys 2 is when Martin Lawrence's daughter comes over. I mean, her boyfriend comes to take her on a date. So Will Smith acts like he just got out of jail.
Yeah, I remember.
And they just tear this poor kid apart. I'm like, that's what a dad does, man.
Well, so I just recently started seeing this woman who drew me into the Game of Thrones, and to tell you the truth, like after all the season 8 controversy, like I just had no interest in it because I didn't want to like build myself up. But like, if this woman wants me to watch it, yeah, I'll watch it. Eris, like I understand she's going to be like a big like time assassin. So, is there like a strong like female like upcomings present in your work?
In my work?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes.
That you can tell it. I mean, don't spoil it, but you can just...
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. There is good and bad. I'll say that. They will have an impact on the main character, Caius, as he progresses, he grows up. We'll watch him grow up in the next couple volumes. We'll watch him become that guardian, You know, that he's going to have that Obi-Wan Anakin relationship with the Guardian who trains him. There is a woman in the first volume, this book that's out now, that is a sorceress. She's in the service of the same king he serves, and they have a love interest in the past. So they kind of right now, currently, they have a love-hate relationship, and that will be explored further down the road. But you'll meet her in the first, present day Guardians of Erloth, and then when you go back in time, she'll end up coming into the story at some point. But yeah, I think she'll have a big impact on him as a character, and kind of, I mean, he's the main character, but there will be a couple, I don't want to give anything away, but there will be plenty of female characters that have impact on the story that I think are strong in their own right. Like I could branch off and do a separate book about them.
Ooh.
Yeah, the mentor.
That's
the mentor,
very cool. And gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. My phone's about to die, so I have to bow out at this point. Go check out Guardians of Erloth and get this guy over the 15,000. We're just about there. So, all right, take it easy.
Thanks for joining, Immortal. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you, man.
anytime.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, very nice to meet you. You guys are gentlemen and scholars. I'll talk to you some other time.
Immortal's one of my mods, so you can click on his channel in the chat a little earlier. But yeah, he's a great friend. It starts with a 1. He uses 1s for I's and L's to be a little different.
Yeah. I'm a little bit silly, so. All right, guys, take it easy. I'll talk to you some other time.
No, yeah, sorry. I didn't mean the 1s like being different as like a jab, just for awareness, so no one takes that tone like, oh, is he jabbing him? No. Oh, really quick. So I'm newer to comics, and Jeff Fix keep me in on this online site. So I read a lot when I can online, especially on the weekends. And I did a review of Star Wars Age of Resistance Finn Infestation. I'm not sure if that's actually a subtitle or not, but it's the Finn comic, and it's a prequel. And dear God, it's awful. Like Finn was just awful all around in Last Jedi, and even when I saw Force Awakens, where it's like he's like talking smack to Phasma, I'm like, what? This is Star Wars. Like I shouldn't feel like a Kevin Hart impersonation. I shouldn't feel a real world impersonation of anyone in a Star Wars movie. This should be otherworldly, And
Or your mama jokes at the beginning.
Yeah. So like that.
You're gonna learn today.
And so I'm reading this, and it starts like kind of cool. It shows Starkiller Base. They're going closer and closer, and you have like this kind of like voice in a box saying something. You don't know who it is, and like the last image is like Finn, kind of ominous, and then it's like fear my mop, and he's a janitor, and he's with this other janitor, and they're like mopping the floor and vacuuming, and it's like, wait a minute. Last Jedi made a point to tease us where it's like, what kind of ship is it? Oh, it's not a ship, it's an iron. Like, we have droids that do everything, and yet you have these guys mopping the floor, not even taking into account like the history of black people with being janitors, if anything, and stuff, being lowly servants in the military, not serving front lines usually because they don't want to give them glory. It was just awful, and it turns into like this kind of like subtle PETA type of narrative of like, hey, we got these things that literally like are slaughtering us in the core in this facility, and they got to clean them out with this sanitation crew, if you will. And then they have like this, single woman who's managing this garbage and stuff and helping free these animals, and it's just like, what the hell? Like, I gave Star Wars a chance like months ago. I did a video where I'm like, it seems Star Wars, Lucasfilm is trying to finally appease my generation, the prequel generation, that are adults buying stuff now. And I gave them a chance, and they're just showing, no, they're doubling down on everything Last Jedi and this narrative, this push. I'm just wondering, like, just hearing this stuff, what are your thoughts?
I'm with who was talking about the Dark Horse back when Dark Horse was doing the Star Wars comics.
That was me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with him, man. It's when it left Dark Horse and it went to Marvel, and then from Marvel to IDW, that it was dead on arrival.
I stopped reading and buying. I grew up reading and buying every single comic and Star Wars book novel. I started with back in the mid '90s with Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy.
Yeah,
And that was my gateway into the EU. Before the EU really even existed, I guess he kind of created it by starting that series. I mean, they had comics in the '80s, right? They had what was it called? Splinter of the Mind's Eye was, one of the books that I recall. But once Disney bought it, I'd spent so much time, so much of my childhood, my teenage years, so much of my money after I got my first job buying these books. I had every single book. I had a lot of the comics, a lot of every single one of the games. And when they kind of said, it's not canon anymore, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like that's when I stopped. I tried reading Aftermath. Boring story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think the last story, the last comic story I read from that, I actually mentioned it in the chat a little while ago, was the Kate Skywalker Darth Talon story.
Yep. Jan Derstema and John Ostrander.
Wait. Did you say Aftermath?
Yes, that was the.
That's the Chuck Wendig book.
Oh my God!
Trilogy.
I gotta tell you about that. So I didn't read the third book. I read the first two. All right, so it's very personal to me, especially later on finding the Phantom Menace and Chuck Wendig being a big part with our coverage and stuff, and Twitter and Kavanaugh and all that stuff before he got fired. So when Force Awakens was imminent, I was so excited. Of course, my wife teased me, I think Thanksgiving or maybe the day before, it was like, oh, the Star Wars trailer's out. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait. And then it's like Rickroll. I'm like, oh. So then that Black Friday when the trailer dropped, she's like, hey, the trailer's out. I'm like, fuck you. And she's like, no, for real. And so I'm like, all right. And I'm like ready to get Rickrolled again. And it's like, oh my God, it's for real. Like, this is really happening. And so they have the Journey to the Force Awakens. They're like, hey, the EU is legacy. We're just making everything continuity with the games, the comics, the toys, like everything fits together. And we were pregnant. And so the expendable income we had with only my check in the military became non-existent where we're trying to get ready for a child. All right. So spending any money for leisure was pretty much non-existent. So early on, I figured out I need to hone in my interests. I couldn't play Magic, especially in Fort Drum. They played like they didn't play standard. They played like ledge. I can't remember which format. It's like instead of like 1 year's continuity of cards, it's like 10 years. I can't remember what that iteration is, but yeah. So I just quit playing Magic then after leaving Fort Knox. And I just honed in. Was like, all right, I'll collect toys. I can pick when I buy them. I'll try to do comics, whatever, like Spawn and Star Wars when it's coming out. And so it was like any dollar spent was like, it's a big investment because I don't have much to spend. So Aftermath, I was like, oh God, I got to get this as the first book. It's going to bridge the gap between Return of the Jedi and this new trilogy. And I didn't I read it. I didn't pick up on like, oh, there's this gay character and like he's just kind of a stereotype, and got this dumb kid with a retooled Phantom Menace skeleton droid that's like a crazy assassin and everything else. And yeah, so like looking back, Red Gaze, he has a great video of just burning the book.
Yeah, it's very disappointing.
What's stupid is they had the Journey of the Force Awakens. They had like some kids' books, and they had like Aftermath, and they had a comic series called Shattered Empires, a 4-part series. And it's I wish I was cognizant back then, but it's like Star Wars. They have good faith with us. So I'm getting this every issue comes out, and it's about Poe Dameron's mom mainly, and it's got Leia in it some, and it hints at like her feelings or premonitions of like Phantom Menace with Padme. It's like going all the way back to like Maul and stuff. It's like, ooh, little inklings. And then Luke ends up finding with the remnants, they find like hit one of the hidden bases of Palpatine. They find this Force tree. There's 2 of them, and he takes one for his new temple, and he gives one to Poe Dameron's mom. And they're like, ooh, how's this going to tie into the story? Then the Force Awakens happens. Like, all right, they kind of soft rebooted, but all right, they're getting us back on track with what everyone can agree on with Star Wars. Even though I'm a prequel fan, I'm like, all right, cool, it's Star Wars. They're going to tie this in, maybe tie in the Rebels with Bendu and all this, with like what I thought the tree was going to be in Last Jedi. I thought it was going to be a Bendu antlers or something.
Right.
Nothing from the Journey of the Force Awakens I've seen has tied in at all. And it's like, oh god, what they did, the goodwill they fucking pissed away with just the comic series that they made. Vader was good. Everything I've read of Vader so far is good. I just finished the Darth Maul series that I started a couple years ago, and I finally read the 5-part series, and it's like it's kind of true to the character, but I just noticed where it's like it's not really doing anything. It's just like, oh, let's write this like prequel kind of story for Maul before Phantom Menace, and it feels almost like you play The Witcher or something, and you get like this internal dialogue that what's his name, the main character,
Geralt.
Geralt, when you're traveling around, you hear this internal dialogue, or you're clicking through like the dialogue and stuff. It feels kind of empty. It's like, wait, what was the point of reading this? It's just reflective of the state of comics in general. I'm not deep into Marvel stuff yet. I read here and there when I can, but it's sad. That's why I'm so glad Comicsgate is here. I'm glad to find big like EVS and Meyer and stuff, and small guys starting out like you with just great energy, great insight, starting this, and it's just like we're winning, and I'm excited to do my part to help creators.
Yeah, it's. I'm waiting for Zach to do another episode of was that new series he's doing, Makes Perfect Sense. Did you see that episode that he did?
Was that you talking about the James Bond new writers?
Yeah, the new James Bond writers.
Oh my god,
dude! I'm waiting for him to do one because Immortal Hulk is one of the best-selling books they got right now. Like it's outselling like all their big flagship books, man. It shouldn't be, but it is. And they just announced that they're going to cancel it at issue 25, and they're putting a new series in its place.
Sorry, for what series?
For the Immortal Hulk. They're canceling. This book is consistently one of their top sellers, if not their top seller. And they're going to cancel it at issue 25 and put another book in its place. Makes perfect sense. This is the mentality you're dealing with, man.
They're just trying to get that variant. So it's like what Ethan Skyler always talks about, where it's like, these bad practices. I didn't realize, like, I go to a comic store and I'm always kind of hinting with the guy in my town. I'm like, hey, like, stuff going well for you, because it's like he seems kind of neutral, or doesn't really care about Comicsgate, or like, whatever. It doesn't seem like hateful, but it's like, whatever, like, comics are fine. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, I just got the Vampirella issue 1 because the boycott, and I know everyone's talking about the Negro thing, like you're the Negroes now or something, talking to Vampirella, and I'm just like, that was somewhere I'm like, I don't think I'm going to buy after issue 1, but I read it and I'm like, it's kind of sporadic, I guess, if I was trying to explain the tone. I don't know how I'm going to come across if I do a review of issue 1, but I don't know. I'm worried, I guess, that it'll be like woke crap, but it's the first issue and it doesn't seem like it's hitting me over the head, so I don't know.
No, Christopher Priest is a pretty good writer. He does put social stuff into his books, but he's usually pretty good about making it at least relevant to the story or subtle. So, but it's funny you mentioned the variant cover thing with Marvel, because did you hear the latest their latest genius move?
No, what?
The bloody covers. So they've got these Absolute Carnage tie-in books. And the difference is the covers are other books. On the lettering, there's like it's just like a little bit of blood splatter. And rather than letting people order these books, they're just randomly shipping out a percentage of them to different stores. So one store might get whatever issues of a particular book that they order. Half of them might be this special variant cover, and then another store they might only get like 10%. So they're literally forcing these people to try to either order exorbitant numbers of these books so that they'll have have the covers for their clientele that actually want them, or they have to cannibalize from other people to give them to their preferred customers. And a lot of comic book stores are just losing their shit over it.
Yeah, I see. I'm still new to comics, so like I'm just kind of becoming aware of, like, the variant and try to look out for and stuff, these type of things, and the whole spin of like taking advantage of comic stores, because I'm becoming aware of, like, wow, like a comic store has to spend like what, like $2 on an issue or more, and hope they get like $1.50, $2 profit maybe, which also comes out of with the expenses and stuff to get them in the first place and managing the store, all that. And you're talking about like cannibalizing, like, yeah, I hear, looking back with conversations where it's like, oh yeah, like we talked to like this store and this, and it's like, what? No, like, you should all be competing and trying to take each other out with like, capitalist market, not be like, oh yeah, go here and get book there, and what like
Yeah,
it's screwy.
it's such a bad idea, man. And it's just another predatory thing that they're doing, and it's pissing off comic book stores.
Sorry, Lou says, hey mate, did you hear about the protesters gluing themselves to the streets in Brissy? I don't know where Brissy is. I haven't heard of this. But yeah, do tell us more in the chat, and we'll discuss it. In the meantime, Chael, I was wondering, do you have children?
I have one on the way.
Wow, okay. How far along are you?
Oh, 17 weeks, going on 18, I think.
Nice. Do you know the gender yet?
We won't find out for another couple weeks.
Okay. It's been a while. It's been almost 3 years since I've dealt with that, so I'm like trying to put myself back in that. But yeah, okay, so you're I'm trying to think how to come across this. With this culture, with like comics, what we're mainly discussing, and also film and stuff, like, what's going through your head having a child, especially if perhaps you're having a boy, being a Navy vet as well, being a war era vet, if not a war vet yourself?
I think I just, I had pretty good, not perfect parents, but parents that taught me, the difference between what I view as right and wrong. So I had two examples, and I'm gonna, I grew up very old school as far as punishment. So maybe that part of it is probably not going to be as, what I face. But as far as dealing with the culture war, and other things that we're dealing with politically and socially, just, my wife and I are on the same page. So we're going to raise them to respect people, first of all, and not, I guess, educate kids. Kids aren't getting, my wife's a teacher. So I've seen it when I've been in her classroom. She deals with it. Everything starts in the home, is my firm belief. And unfortunately, divorce is a commonplace now in society. Single parent homes are a common thing. And you may not look at those things as contributing factors, but I think they're directly related to how people are acting out and how this generation is dealing with each other. Social media adds to that. And you can hide behind a screen now and a keyboard. So, we don't have enough people out there teaching their kids, the golden rule anymore. So
Yeah, sorry, I'm just replying to Shellback really quick. I can just tell him since he's still here. Shellback, I was saying thank you for sharing Immortals link, being a good mod, so I appreciate that. Especially my computer being slow, I'm not good at putting links in the chat if they're not already in the description. But yeah, like, it's funny. I remember, I don't watch too much now since I'm so invested in Fandom Menace and Comic Skate and finding new people to stream with and discussions and topics and all that. But I remember watching Jordan Peterson, and he was getting grilled because he was talking about how just statistics, just hard truths thus far. Maybe it'll change, but what we see evident is that children do the best in a straight two-parent home, and he's talking about like non-hetero parents or single parents. They can provide a good home, but there's clearly something that they have to work against. They have to go upstream to hit that same level of success with their children. Like, it's an uphill battle. So yeah, like I'm glad, like we're discussing your clearly have that awareness and stuff. I think about it all the time, like with this Me Too stuff all the time, and like I just covered the other day, just quickly, the show 13 Reasons Why. Say about what you will. It did, I think, offer good discussion despite some of the bad PR it got with copycat suicides of, dumb teens that were feeling down for whatever reason and stuff, wanting attention and everything. Now they're scrubbing the suicide, which is like the whole point of the first season. And it's like you're gonna, like, I guess, put it in perspective of just like full understanding, like something totally unrelated in a way, but it does relate. When I was a kid, I grew up watching Ace Ventura on like TBS or whatever. And it wasn't until I became an adult and owned a copy that I realized, oh, because he says something about hemorrhoids, and then all the guys just start spitting like gross, and it never quite clicked. And then I watched the uncensored, and it's like, oh, she's a tranny or what have you, transvestite. She's in drag, and she's been playing all these guys. And and so if you remove like the context of the suicide and that delivery of the parents, which is great emotional scene, I don't know, it's just, you see like helicopter parenting taking full form now with censoring film. But it's weird because you're not going to censor her like assault, which leads her to suicide. You're not censoring the second season where a boy gets ravaged by a broom handle, and that pushes him to almost be a school shooter. So it's really weird. Definitely a PR spin, but they released like this official statement and stuff. And I don't know, I'm very concerned with, like, all this is cumulative. It all ties together,
Yeah, it's almost like you're kind of hinting at some of the issues we have in society with school shooters is a big topic, right? They try to find the root cause of it. Most people generally just point out that it's, a white male with anger issues, right? Or he was bullied. Well, I said earlier that everything starts in the home. And people always blame guns. They don't worry about mental illness as much or focus on it as much. But I think it's like it's almost like created mental illness. It's almost like years of abandonment, years of maybe neglect in certain social and emotional ways. And I think people just, they're not getting what they need, and they resort to, horrific things to, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny that something I've noticed is that they want to demonize males and white males with the gun issue and stuff, especially because a lot of these shooters end up being white boys. But then they also spin where it's like, oh, well, he didn't have a male role model to raise him right or something. So it's like it seems like there's an agenda of like broken homes in some form or fashion, but then they acknowledge like, oh, this kid is maybe this way because of a broken home. It's like it seems like a weird kind of infinity type of problem where it's like, well, if you address this, then maybe this would not be a problem.
Right. And Patriarch of the Sith says if we put as much money into mental health as we did on the war on drugs, we'd be fine as a country. I think we'd definitely be better off.
Yeah.
Really quick, anyone that is newer here in the chat, if you're not aware, I added both Chael Roberts' channel, Comics Do Nord, in the description, as well as his Indiegogo campaign for Guardians of Erloth, which looks awesome. Great art. Story seems. One thing I was going to ask, because I interviewed Eric Weathers a couple weeks ago. Are you lettering, or is Ryan Best lettering? Like, who's your letterer?
I won't go into too much detail about my letter, but the letter on the first book is Anti-Comicsgate. That's why he's not listed. That's why I don't talk about him. When I hired him, I didn't know who he was. He was recommended to me, and I ended up, hiring him and paying him to do letters. And I found out through a Twitter message that somebody had said that they were going to back my book, and then they saw who was lettering it, and they're like, nope. So I ended up taking him off because I didn't want him to derail my book and cause issues. So the next book, actually, I've talked to Eric, and he's agreed to letter it.
Nice.
So we'll be changing the letter on the next book.
So with your letter, like, is there like kind of an agreement of like, hey, just kind of stay in the shadows, or is it kind of you just like putting it to an end where it's like, hey, just this is it, I get your stance, let's just not work afterwards?
Nope, I didn't confront him at all. I just gave him pages, let him do his job, and didn't say anything to him. I did some research to figure out what was going on with him. I looked at his social media, and I did everything I could to prevent my book from being sabotaged. And I never told him I was Comicsgate. So, I believe in karma. He is very anti-Comicsgate, and he doesn't know that he lettered if he does, he hasn't said anything. So.
Yeah, no, it's great that you're aware and proactive, because it can definitely derail. I'm not sure if you're aware of the Pocket Jacks comics, but there's that whole ordeal that along with his whole antics afterwards and the Bleeding Fool stuff, that he's only hurting a potential customer base. So I'm glad to hear that whether you're aware of that story or not, that you're aware of like, okay, that should just not correctors per se, because like that's the thing with Constantine. It's like the whole thing is like, hey, like we can not agree on stuff, but like let's just make art. And
Right.
If I ever do a project, like I'm totally open to work with anybody if they want to make art, but not get in the way of like hurting the art, hurting the success. So
right. And I can swallow my pride. What I do to stay away from that is I stay in my own lane. I don't engage, because I like to hold myself to a higher standard than SJWs, and I'm not going to. It doesn't bother me if they say I'm a hateful person, because I know that's not true. There's nothing about it that's even remotely close. And I know people in Comicsgate. I know you guys. I've been a part of this now for a little over a year. There's always fighting, but that has nothing to do with me. So I stay in my own lane, mind my own business, and do what I want to do, like create my book.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll definitely push you to whoever I can to help accelerate your campaign and stuff. Because I'm part of War Campaign, and I'll put in a good word for you. You seem like a great person in dialogue and got a good project. So I want to do my part to help you.
Oh, thank you.
whoever you might be associated with, because hopefully we can get you, if y'all haven't, please go sub to them in the link again, it's in the description. And if you can't back at the moment, if you're waiting for payday or something, if this sounds interesting, go over there, log into your Indiegogo and hit the follow button so you don't forget. It's in demand still. How long do you think it's going to be up for people to still purchase? Like when is the, like, if when would you say, like, hey, plan for this date for it to be closed?
I would say right before I launch Volume 2, I'll probably end up offering, I will end up offering a tier in Volume 2 with both books. The price point's probably going to be something that's going to change. It's going to be a bigger book, and but probably until I launch that.
Nice. Yeah, this is great. I'm trying to get anything that just keep people aware and give them the biggest window if money's an issue.
Which will be this fall.
Awesome fall. Cool. Crap. I'll have to think really quick on the question I was going to ask you. Comic Book Bob, do you got anything to ask him while I'm thinking on that?
I don't know. I came in here early, came in here late, so I don't know if anybody asked him this, but I know that this is the second time you've put this up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you just run into some unexpected issues with the first time, or is it just a lack of exposure? Or
I think a little bit of everything. It was my first campaign. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I had tried to copy ones that I saw succeeding. I set the goal too high. My YouTube channel's still in the works. I do a weekly show called Fantasy Cast Live, but other than that, I haven't done too many individual videos that just to put up on a daily basis, just because I'm extremely busy. It's hard to find time, but that's something that I think I'm going to fix before the next campaign. The first campaign had 55 awesome backers, and it helped, and we got the book finished, and was able to set a lower goal this time and keep it in demand. Cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of the like these people, like people who are going into first time crowdfunding, they're just that's a common thing to run into, is just things that are like, you try to prepare for everything, but you just run into things that you just never expected. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these campaigns, even like the big ones, are coming out late, because they're just it's something, they're on this learning curve that they have to figure things out.
Yeah, fortunately, I was able to fulfill kind of on time. I'd shot for April. I didn't get them sent out till May, but I was able to finish the book and fulfill. And then I had a finished product to come back with. And I had some reviews. People had read it and liked it. Some people came back and supported me a second time.
Did you now there is one other question as far as the campaigns are going. I know there's two different schools of thought. One school of thought is that you should have the project either almost done or completely done before you even put it up, and the other is to just to try to pick a realistic date and try to hit it. What camp do you think you fall into, man?
When my first campaign failed, I'd wish I had finished it and then put it up there. But I'm now in a spot where I have the first one finished. I don't want to leave people hanging for a year and a half or a year to finish it. And then there's also the money part of it. I wish I didn't have to crowdfund. I wish I could just get them made and put them out on Amazon and sell them to people. But unfortunately, that's not the path I can take at this moment.
Yeah, I don't think for some creators, I'm sure that they could do they could do the have the finished product done before you even put it up for crowdfunding. But for a lot of especially a lot of first timers like you, I just don't think that's a realistic model, because part of the whole reason you're crowdfunding is to have the money to even get it done.
Yep.
Yeah. Really quick, we got crazy. I never had something this big announced in my stream, but Oscar-nominated A-Hole, great channel, subbed him. If you haven't, he's got a great range of content. He says, "Sorry for leaving real quick. Been celebrating. I got engaged today, and I can't quite tell." He's got an okay sign, frog, shrug, rainbow.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Awesome.
Um,
A-hole, how long have you been, crap, I'm lost for words. How long have you been with this person before the engagement? Give some details. While you're figuring that out, Lou asks for Chael, is there international shipping or is it only to the States?
Right now, it's just to the States. I was actually looking at a tier for people. I know I've had a couple people from Canada inquire. I've had one person, I don't know ever what happened to that person that was overseas. So I will definitely think about, I'm planning on putting a tier up. The shipping's going to have to, be good. It's going to have to meet the requirement to send it there and, not lose, my skin on it, any skin, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. Perhaps, Lou, maybe something, there's just anything outside the box. Maybe it won't work. I don't know, but perhaps you could have someone, if you have friends in stateside, back and maybe figure that out secondary. If if Chael isn't able to make it feasible as a sell for people at the moment, I don't know. I'm just thinking out. Maybe it doesn't work, but at least you can try looking into that as a sort of loophole where you can still back it and kind of get it to yourself in a different means afterward.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm going to seriously look at. I had planned on adding a tier for Canada because I know a couple of people are in Canada. And then I'll look at, Europe, and I'm not sure what part of the world he's in, but, maybe I'll do an international shipping for one tier and make it so that, the shipping's going to be up there. It has to be. But,
yeah. Oscar nominated A-hole says, I've been with her almost 5 years. We met at my old job at Kroger. It's awesome. I live actually close to Kroger. She's awesome and enjoys Fandom and its content. Awesome. Have you ever had her on your channel? Let me know. If not, that'd be cool. Maybe I know Thor Skywalker has his, I think, fiance at the moment on his channel. I think Robert Willing has his significant other as well. If you ever see Andrea, whenever she does make appearances, people love that, And that actually was the question I was going to ask you: is your wife involved at all with your creation, or supporting, giving you ideas, giving you like just off the cuff feedback if you're just like spitballing when you're creating?
she is my editor.
there
So,
you go.
Yeah, like I said, she's a teacher, so she's very good at editing. That's grammar and spelling. As far as story editing, she does to an extent. I mean, I think she likes a story. She tells me she does. So.
Does she have any like comic or film interest that applies to comics and creation or for your work?
I think my comic was the first comic she ever read. So she's watched the MCU. She loves those. So other than that, I don't think so.
Nice. So I assume she's going to be credited in your book as the editor.
No, I tried, but she said no. So.
Oh, okay. No, I understand that. Like, my wife. There's a lot of us in the Fan Minister Comicscape that it's like our significant other is like, yeah, they're not involved, or like Drunk 3PO. His wife's like, yeah, don't bother me with that. Because like I'm sure much you've seen my channel, but Drunk 3PO he did a video months ago when Captain Marvel was building up where it's like, am I boycotting? He's like, no, I'm just broke. If you want me to see it, send me $50 my PayPal. Here's why I want $50 to go see this movie for my expenses, etc.
Right.
And so I held him to that and actually made like a Nevia style video, which was crazy because I don't have the poise or the spin like him, but it worked for that video, one take. And literally, I sent him $10 that day while I was rendering the video for PayPal. I'm like, hey, this is for Captain Marvel. And he's like, oh, dude, I'll send you your money back. No one's going to fund me. And he said, no, don't go making a video about that. And of course, we did the push. We incentivized people with the charity run for his charity outreach he does every year. and I did a spin. I took his review of the movie and a couple other clips, and did this whole like Make-A-Wish type of story, a documentary. Like, oh, he got to see his hero, his hero, and he showed his wife. Like, he loved it, but his wife's like, "Your friends are weird." She doesn't get it. So it's funny. It's funny hearing sorry, hearing these stories off air or something about like, yeah, what's it like being a creator with like being married or having a girlfriend or boyfriend.
Yeah, my wife wasn't too pleased at times that first couple months because I was listening to EVS like constantly every stream. So it was taking away time from us time. So
Yeah, it's definitely hard to manage, especially when I started, because like luckily I do most of my stuff now on an iPhone. But before it's just on my computer. My computer's slow, so like always like, oh come on, or you've been up till 4. It's like, yeah, like I wrote a script, that wasn't hard. Recording it was fine. It's the whole editing, it takes forever in an editor and waiting for it to upload and then put it up on YouTube and add the details, and it's a lot of work. I envy people that have the poise or just go with it, even if it's like doesn't have like quite the spunk to it, whatever. To just go on camera or just record something like that. I was looking at your channel because you don't have a lot of content yet. And I say yet, I expect you'll boost that at some point. But I saw there's like a big window about like 5 months. So if it's not too deep of a issue or something, like what was the story behind that?
So I think the some of my first videos were of Comicsgate, and actually those are my most popular videos. I made 2 videos discussing. I don't know at what point you jumped into Comicsgate, but last summer there was an issue with Malin and EVS, and then another 2 YouTubers, and it was the first time I think any of us saw like John Malin go like off on anybody or get. He went up a couple octaves. He wasn't happy, and it was a big like debate going on. And it was kind of at the time I was just a customer. I was a consumer. First and foremost, will always be a consumer first. So I wasn't, and I'm the type of person that doesn't like, I will stick up for myself, but I'm not going to go after people if they say something mean about me. You know what I mean? So it kind of turned me off a little bit, and I made a video about it, and it got like, I think that was like my second video, and it got like over 100 views in the first couple days, I think. And that was a lot for me. And so I know drama does sell. Drama is attractive to some extent because we have reality TV, and I get sucked into it myself. And I don't mind watching it, but no one likes to be the target. So I made a video about that, and then I thought better of it and kind of put it on private, and then stayed away from stuff and focused on my book. And now that book's finished, I like to come out of the woodworks and I started that fantasy cast, and I know you can't really build a channel on live streaming. So
yeah, as long as you spritz it back and forth, I think you'll be fine. If you can put up, I don't know, just your thoughts. I think the biggest thing is for something quick for people to digest, like 5 to 20 minutes of like your thoughts, your kind of philosophy, so people can kind of buy into who you are. Because like Comicsgate, it's not like, oh yeah, this guy writes well, like at Marvel. I'm just down for Claremont or like newer Sean Gordon Murphy or whatever. You don't, like, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know anything about their personalities. But with like Comicsgate, it's like the whole sell is like, I like this person, like for me, Mike Miller kind of drives me with his content or lackluster or whatever. But I respect him whenever he's a creator, and he's been a victim of the industry,
right.
unfairly. But
and that's what we got to remember. There's a reason why we're labeled Comicsgate, right? There's a reason why we are opposed to what's going on in the mainstream industry, the big 3. So I love John Malin. I mean, the guy's awesome. He's like a man's man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I watched a good half of his stream with Ethan Skyver like a year or two ago when Ethan Skyver's I think still at DC and he's trying to like kind of ride the fence and like yeah I'm still here at DC but I'm interested, I'm concerned with what way things are going, I'm starting to notice, but he's still like trying to be a pro and not get the boot. And I think Mel was like pretty much aware like yeah I'm gonna get canned. And you just hear that and stuff and you hear the tenacity. It's like it's funny going back and because like as far as a lot of like the big guys their early content and some of these arguments wasn't aware of at the time. And so I'm doing my research, doing my diligence stuff and trying to keep up as well with current stuff. So it's very interesting. I love hearing Malin. I don't know who this beef was. I'm very interested. If you could find a link, perhaps.
It was one of the early episodes, if I remember what you're talking about. But,
yeah, it
real
was
quick,
a.
just to jump in early, guys. I gotta take off. I'm actually at work right now, so I gotta go do rounds. But appreciate you having me on here, Black Angus, man. And I'll check you guys out later. Yeah. How do you pronounce your first name, man?
Chael.
Chael. Okay, I'm sorry. Like I said, I came in here late, but good luck on your book, man. And I'll definitely keep an eye on it, and hopefully get good things coming out of there.
Yeah, thank you. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Comic Book Bob, and I'll definitely have to have you as a main guest at some point for a stream. But you're great supplemental addition to panels. I appreciate your
no problem, man. I appreciate you being here. But
have a good day.
You guys have a good night. Yep, you have a good night.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. We're actually about to close out pretty soon. Just because I gotta go to work, early in the morning. But
Me too.
I really appreciate you coming on here, and definitely want to have you on more for the big panels I do like on Fridays if you're available, or when I have like I think next week. So I got to just verify, but I scheduled Mandy Summers, who you've streamed with.
Oh yeah.
Have her on next week.
She's fun.
Yeah, definitely open to have you on the panel. It's great interacting with you, and I'm looking forward to see what content you start putting out. Aside from the live streams, I'll definitely go through those when I have a chance. I'm a plumber assistant now, and so I figured out from one of my coworkers, he downloads stuff and just puts it in his helmet, our construction helmets, and so I've been doing that with old Ethan Van Sciver stuff, kind of seeing the progression of his channel and the commentary and bigger videos of other YouTubers I follow. So I'll definitely start checking your stuff out soon, at least next week. But yeah, everyone go check out Comics Du Nord, or how do you say your channel name?
It's Comics Du Nord. It's
Du Nord. Okay.
So it's half French. Obviously, the comics isn't French, but Du Nord is of the North.
Okay, yeah, I picked up on that, but I was like, oh, is this French or like, yeah, like I assume I'm too English with this.
Yeah. So the Minnesota is the Star of the North, and on our flag we have L'Étoile du Nord, which is the Star of the North, and so it's kind of a play on that.
Nice, yeah. Sorry, I just saw Brother Malachi. I don't know if you saw Chael, but he says, you should tell this guy, Doomcock and Nerdrotic purposely set up second channels to put live streams on to the chat jumped on me to avoid hitting the ratings on their main channel. Yeah, well, what I do, my suggestion for most of my streams, besides like just big names because it can still get clicks, I unlist almost all my live streams after like say a week, and I keep them all in a playlist though. So if anyone wants to ever backtrack, if they find me and like, hey, let's see the progression of Angus or whatever, or see who he's had on, there's that live stream playlist where you can go through, but it's not like bogging down if you come to my channel and see like just video lists. Because people don't follow you and they come to you, it's like, oh, like Precedent, what the hell is that? Or Utter Chaos, this is episode like 19, like,
Right.
where did this start,
So what do you use? Do you use an OBS or?
No, I'm using Hangouts right now. I'm going to start doing research this next couple weeks to get ready for the shift from Hangouts to whatever the new format's going to be, OBS or Discord or whatever. It shouldn't be too hard of a transition, but I do need to study up because I'm not the best tech savvy person.
Yeah. I know. I feel you there.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. Like I remember Hangouts, I was so stressed because we formed our little trio at first before we started like the Fandom Collective, and like the second episode was on my channel. I'm like, oh fuck, like my internet drops all the time for my Wi-Fi for some reason, and I've never done this. And I'm just stressed out. And it's like now it's like, oh yeah, like 20 minutes before, let me set up this live stream. Boom.
All right. Yeah.
The best thing I would say, and what I still lack Slack on, is setting up the Twitter hangout or the Twitter chats for like, hey, you're on the roster for this stream, getting it more proactive and early as possible. Just people can set it in their schedule, so you're not like, oh, because there's about 8 or 9 people I had scheduled. A couple of them couldn't come because of the hurricane, because they're in Florida, that weather. But other people just like, oh, it's like last minute. So that, and you seem pretty good with carrying conversation, not getting sidetracked. Unlike myself, what I tell people is always have a notebook and pen or paper handy to at least write like a little word, so you key yourself in. Like, oh yeah, that memory. That's what I want to discuss. But no, it's been great having you on. Again, everybody, description, back Guardians of Erloth, and sub to Chael Roberts' channel, Comics Du Nord, both in the description. And yeah, any last words you want to say, Chael, before we head out?
Yeah, if you get a chance, go check out Guardians of Erloth. We are going to be working on the second volume. That will be coming out this fall, or at least the campaign will.
Awesome. So you saw that. You saw the art earlier. And yeah, enjoy the content as it comes and get ready for volume 2 and back this one. All you got to spend at minimum, if you want to follow this, is $5 on digital. Get that first taste and start following Chael and his work, and let's support young, fresh comic skaters. Appreciate y'all coming in, and if you could share this out on Twitter for replay, get to know Chael better, and sub everybody. All right. Thank you all for coming. Talk to y'all later. See you Friday for my live stream.
Night.